The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles. Its ceiling was made of living crystal that showed the stars themselves. Thousands of alien species had walked through its golden doors over the past 12,000 years. Most of them had walked in as free people. They had left as slaves. The Volnorian hegemony ruled this part of the galaxy with an iron fist. They were tall creatures with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were black as space itself. They believed they were superior to all other life forms. And for 12,000 years, no one had proven them wrong. Ambassador Yurin Vash stood at the center of the Great Hall. He was one of the highest-ranking members of the hegemony. Today was a simple day for him. Another young species had crawled out of their little planet. Another group of primitives needed to learn their place. The humans had arrived. Yurin Vash studied the small group of creatures that stood before him. They were so fragile-looking, soft skin, only 2 arms. They lived for less than 100 years. How could such weak beings ever think they deserved a place among the stars? The leader of the human group was a woman named Elena Vasquez. She was the Secretary General of something called the United Nations. Yurin Vash did not care about human politics. He only cared about delivering the hegemony's terms. "You will listen carefully," Yurin Vash said. His voice echoed through the Great Hall. "The hegemony has decided your fate. You should be grateful we are even speaking to you." Elena Vasquez did not react. She simply stood there with her hands folded in front of her. Her face showed nothing. Yurin Vash continued. 60% of your population will be taken as workers for our empire. Your military vessels will be destroyed. Your weapons will be surrendered. The hegemony governor will be placed on your world to ensure you follow all laws." He paused and smiled. It was not a kind smile. This is not a negotiation. This is how things are. 37 species have accepted these terms before you. You will be the 38th. The other aliens in the Great Hall watched with bored expressions. They had seen this many times. The young species always looked scared at first. Then they accepted their fate. That was how the universe worked. But Elena Vasquez did not look scared. She reached into her coat and pulled out a single piece of paper. She walked forward slowly and held it out to Yurin Vash. "This is humanity's response," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. Yurin Vash snatched the paper with one of his 4 hands. He read it quickly. Then he read it again. Then he started to laugh. The paper contained humanity's counteroffer. It was very simple. Humanity wanted complete freedom. They wanted to be treated as equals. They wanted mutual respect between Earth and the hegemony. "You cannot be serious," Yurin Vash said through his laughter. "You are nothing. Your species is barely 1,000 years old. You have no great fleet. You have no powerful weapons. And you dare to ask for equality." Elena Vasquez did not flinch. "We are not asking. We are offering friendship and fair trade. We do not want war. We do not want conflict. But we will not give you our people as slaves. We will not surrender our freedom." The laughter in the Great Hall grew louder. Dozens of hegemony officials were now mocking the humans openly. Some of the other alien species joined in. It was the funniest thing they had seen in years. Yurin Vash threw the paper on the ground. "Go back to your little planet, human. Tell your people what we have demanded. You have 1 year to prepare 60% of your population for collection. If you resist, we will burn your cities from orbit. We will make examples of your children. This is not a threat. This is simply what will happen." Elena Vasquez bent down and picked up the paper. She folded it carefully and put it back in her coat. Then she looked directly into Yurin Vash's black eyes. "I need you to listen to me very carefully," she said. The room slowly grew quiet. There was something in her voice that made even the mocking aliens stop and pay attention. "Humanity has studied your hegemony. We know what you have done to other species. We know about the slave camps. We know about the burned worlds. We know about the millions who have suffered under your rule." She took a step closer to Urin Vash. "We are giving you this warning once. Only once. Do not mistake our desire for peace as weakness. Do not think that because we are young, we are helpless. We have spent our entire history fighting. We have been at war with ourselves for thousands of years. We know violence better than you could ever imagine." The Great Hall was completely silent now. "We are offering you friendship," Elena Vasquez continued. "We are offering you trade and cooperation and peace. Take this offer. It is a good one. Because if you force us to fight, we will not stop until the hegemony is nothing but ash and memory." She paused and let her words sink in. "This is Earth's first and final warning. We do not wish for war, but we will not kneel." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, Urin Vash started laughing again. This time, his laughter was harder and crueler. "Threats from insects," he said. "How amusing. Go home, little human. Enjoy your last year of freedom. When we come to collect your people, try to remember this moment. Remember when you had the chance to accept your place with dignity." Elena Vasquez nodded slowly. "I will remember this moment, and so will you." She turned and walked out of the Great Hall with her delegation following behind her. The aliens watched them go with smiles on their faces. The humans were fools. Brave fools perhaps, but fools nonetheless. Urin Vash turned to his advisors. "Increase the collection quota to 70%. These humans need to learn respect." His advisors nodded and began making notes. In the corner of the Great Hall, a young Velinari diplomat named Kirasol watched the doors close behind the humans. She was one of the few aliens who had not laughed, thought she had seen something in the human woman's eyes. Something that the others had missed. It was not fear. It was not desperation. It was patience. The kind of patience that a hunter shows when watching its prey. Kirasol felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She wanted to say something to Urin Vash. She wanted to warn him that perhaps they should take the humans seriously, but she stayed silent. Who would listen to her? The hegemony had ruled for 12,000 years. What could a species of soft, fragile creatures possibly do against such power? She would learn the answer soon enough. The whole galaxy would. 3 years passed after the meeting at the Galactic Council. The hegemony expected humanity to surrender before the deadline. They did not. The hegemony sent warships to intimidate Earth. The humans did not flinch. They simply asked the warships to leave their space. The galaxy watched with curiosity. Most species thought the humans were either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. But instead of attacking immediately, the hegemony decided to play a longer game. They blocked humanity from the best trade routes. They spread lies about humans being dangerous and untrustworthy. They banned other species from doing business with Earth. And humanity endured it. All human traders were insulted and cheated at every space station. Human diplomats were ignored and mocked. Human ships were searched and delayed for no reason. But the humans never fought back. They filed complaints. They requested meetings. They followed every rule and regulation perfectly. The hegemony saw this as proof that humans were cowards. The galaxy agreed. These strange creatures from Earth were clearly too afraid to fight. Their warning at the council had been nothing but empty words. What the galaxy did not see was what humanity was doing in secret. Deep in the cold darkness beyond Neptune, human engineers worked day and night. They built shipyards hidden inside asteroids. They constructed weapons factories on frozen moons. They designed new ships that were faster and stronger than anything the hegemony had ever seen. Earth's greatest scientists studied every piece of hegemony technology they could find. They took apart alien weapons and learned how they worked. Then they made better ones. They looked at alien shields and found their weaknesses. They examined alien engines and improved them. Humanity had always been good at war. It was a sad truth, but a truth nonetheless. For thousands of years, humans had fought each other. They had invented countless ways to destroy. Now all that terrible knowledge was being turned toward a single purpose. But the humans prayed they would never have to use it. They still hoped for peace. That hope died on a spring morning when the news reached Earth. The colony of New Helsinki was located on a beautiful world in a distant star system. 2.3 million people lived there. Farmers who grew food, teachers who educated children, doctors who healed the sick, families who had traveled across the stars looking for a better life. War Admiral Torvex of the hegemony decided that New Helsinki would make a perfect example. The colonists had refused to give up 70% of their harvest to hegemony tax collectors. They said they needed the food to survive the coming winter. They offered to give 30% instead. They begged for mercy. Torvex did not believe in mercy. His fleet appeared in orbit without warning. The colonists had no military ships. They had no weapons that could reach space. They could only watch as the massive hegemony warships positioned themselves above their cities. Governor Marcus Webb sent a desperate message to the fleet. "Please," he said, "we have children here. We have elderly who cannot move quickly. Give us time to negotiate. Give us time to evacuate. Please." Torvex's response was simple. "You had time. You chose to disobey. Now you will burn." The bombardment lasted 6 hours. Plasma fire rained down from the sky like the anger of evil gods. Cities that had taken decades to build were turned to glass in seconds. Forests that had been carefully planted were reduced to ash. Rivers boiled away into steam. The people of New Helsinki ran, but there was nowhere to run to. Some hid in basements and caves. Most of them died anyway when the ground above them melted. Parents covered their children with their own bodies, trying to protect them from the fire. It did not help. When it was over, nothing remained. 2.3 million people were gone. The planet itself was scarred so badly that nothing would grow there. For 1,000 years, Torvex recorded a message and broadcast it across the galaxy. "Let this be a lesson," he said proudly. "The hegemony's demands are not requests. They are commands. Obey or burn. This is the natural order of things." The message reached Earth 3 days later. People gathered in the streets to watch the footage on massive screens. They saw the cities burning. They saw the families running. They saw the children crying for their parents in the moments before the fire took them. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the silence turned to weeping. Then the weeping turned to something else entirely. Secretary General Elena Vasquez called an emergency meeting of every world leader. They gathered in a bunker deep beneath the Swiss mountains. For 12 hours, they talked. They argued. They made decisions that would change the course of history. When they emerged, Elena Vasquez stood before the cameras of the world. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady as stone. 3 years ago, I stood before the Galactic Council and issued a warning. I told the hegemony that we wanted peace. I told them that we would be good friends but terrible enemies. They laughed at us. They called us insects. She paused and took a deep breath. Today, I must inform the hegemony that they have made a terrible mistake. The people of New Helsinki were not soldiers. They were farmers and teachers and children. They asked for nothing but the right to live. And they were murdered for it. Her hands gripped the podium. The hegemony wanted to teach us a lesson. They wanted us to learn fear. Instead, they have awakened something that has slept inside humanity for a very long time. Something that we have tried to forget. something that we hoped we would never need again. She looked directly into the camera. To the hegemony and to the Galactic Council, I say this. You were warned. You chose to ignore that warning. You chose to murder our people. You chose this path. Her voice grew cold and hard. What comes next is not war. War has rules. War has limits. What comes next is consequence. Pure and simple consequence for what you have done. She straightened her shoulders. We will not stop until every person responsible for New Helsinki has answered for their crimes. We will not stop until the hegemony understands that humanity is not prey to be hunted. We do not seek revenge. We seek justice. And we will have it. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, billions of aliens watched in confusion. What could the humans possibly do? They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. They had no great fleet. They had no powerful allies. War Admiral Torvex laughed when he saw the message. Let them come, he said to his officers. They will die like the rest. But in the darkness of space, far from any watching eyes, something was moving. Ships that had never been seen before. Weapons that had never been fired. An army of humans who had been training for this moment for 3 long years. The storm was coming, and the hegemony had no idea. After Secretary General Vasquez made her speech, the galaxy waited for humanity to attack. Every military commander in the hegemony prepared for battle. Every spy network searched for signs of human war fleets. Every sensor pointed toward Earth, but nothing happened. Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. The humans did not come. For 6 months, there was only silence from the Sol system. No ships left Earth's territory. No communications were sent. No demands were made. It was as if humanity had simply vanished. The hegemony's intelligence officers went mad trying to figure out what was happening. They sent probe after probe into human space. None of them came back. They tried to intercept human messages. There were no messages to intercept. They bribed alien traders to spy on Earth. The traders returned with nothing useful. They are hiding, War Admiral Torvex declared. They made their brave speeches, and then they ran like frightened animals. The humans have accepted that they cannot defeat us. His officers nodded and agreed. It made sense. What else could the humans do? The hegemony had the largest fleet in the galaxy. They had weapons that could crack planets in half. They had 12,000 years of military experience, but not everyone in the hegemony was so confident. Curacao, the young diplomat who had watched the humans leave the council 3 years ago, requested a meeting with War Admiral Torvex. She had to wait 2 weeks before he agreed to see her. What do you want? Torvex asked impatiently. He was a tall Velnorian with scars covering 3 of his forearms. He had conquered 17 worlds for the hegemony. He did not have time for young diplomats and their worries. I am concerned about the human silence, Curacao said carefully. It does not make sense. They lost millions of people at New Helsinki. They should be angry. They should be attacking. But instead they are quiet. Torvex shrugged his massive shoulders. They are cowards. I told you this would happen. They bark loudly, but they do not bite. But what if they are planning something? What if they are preparing? The War Admiral laughed. Preparing what? They have nothing. Our scans show they have perhaps 200 military vessels. We have 10,000. Their weapons are primitive. Their shields are weak. Even if they attacked with everything they have, we would destroy them in hours. Curacao wanted to argue more, but she could see it was useless. Torvex had already made up his mind. In his eyes, the humans were defeated. He was just waiting for them to admit it. She left his office with a heavy feeling in her stomach. Meanwhile, in the cold darkness of human space, The truth was very different from what the hegemony believed. The humans had not been hiding. They had been building. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the newest human warship. It was called the Remembrance. It was half the size of a hegemony battlecruiser, but 3 times as fast. Its weapons could punch through any shield the aliens had ever made. Its armor was designed to absorb and redirect plasma fire, and it was just one of 400 ships exactly like it. Status report. Chen Wei said to his officers. All fleets are in position, his tactical officer replied. We have ships stationed at jump points throughout hegemony space. They have no idea we are there. Weapon systems? Fully operational. The new pulse cannons have been tested and confirmed. The shield breakers are ready. The boarding pods are loaded. Chen Wei nodded slowly. He was 63 years old. His grandfather had been born on New Helsinki. His grandfather had died there too, along with 2 million others. What about the enemy? Their patrols are following the same patterns they have used for centuries. They are not expecting an attack. Most of their fleet is scattered across their territory. It would take them weeks to gather their ships together. They will not have weeks, Chen Wei said quietly. The plan had taken 6 months to perfect. Human spies had mapped every hegemony military base. Human hackers had cracked every alien communication code. Human scientists had found weaknesses in hegemony technology that the aliens themselves did not know about. But the most important part of the plan was something that could not be measured by technology or tactics. It was the fire that burned in the heart of every human soldier. The memory of New Helsinki. The faces of the dead that appeared in their dreams every night. The hegemony had wanted to teach humanity fear. Instead, they had given humanity something far more dangerous. They had given humanity a reason to fight with everything they had. On Earth, Secretary General Vasquez met with her military commanders for the final time. Are we ready? She asked. General Morrison, the commander of Earth's forces, nodded. We are. The fleet is in position. The soldiers are prepared. We can begin whenever you give the order. Vasquez closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about the decision she was about to make. Once she gave the order, there would be no going back. Thousands of young humans would go into battle. Many of them would not come home. But then she thought about New Helsinki. She thought about the children whose laughter had been silenced forever. She thought about the parents who had died trying to protect their families. She opened her eyes. Today is the anniversary of New Helsinki, she said. 1 year since the hegemony murdered our people. 1 year since they thought they had broken us. She stood up from her chair. Give the order. All ships are authorized to begin operations. May God forgive us for what we are about to do. Across human space, 400 warships powered up their engines. Soldiers checked their weapons one final time. Pilots strapped themselves into their fighters. Everyone knew that history was about to change. In the Sol system, every light went dark. Every space station, every satellite, every colony ship turned off their power. For one brief moment, humanity's home system was nothing but darkness and silence. It was a message to the galaxy. The humans were done waiting. The humans were done being patient. The humans were coming. And then, like thunder after lightning, the fleet moved. 47. Hegemony systems were about to learn what happened when humanity stopped asking for peace and started demanding justice. The time for warnings was over. The time for consequences had begun. The first attack came at midnight. Hegemony Station Veltrix 7 was one of the largest military bases in the Empire. 20,000 soldiers lived there. 50 warships were docked at its ports. It had protected this sector of space for 3,000 years. It fell in 47 minutes. Human ships appeared from nowhere. They moved faster than anything the hegemony had ever seen. Before the station commander could even sound the alarm, pulse cannons were tearing through the station's shields. Like they were made of paper, the hegemony ships tried to fight back. Their weapons hid nothing but empty space. The human vessels danced and spun in patterns that seemed impossible. They were smaller than the alien warships, but they were so much quicker. How are they doing this? The station commander screamed at his officers. Our targeting systems cannot track them. No one had an answer. Within an hour, every hegemony warship at the station was floating dead in space. The station itself was crippled. Thousands of alien soldiers surrendered without a fight. They had never seen anything like this, and this was just the beginning. Across 47 star systems, the same scene played out again and again. Human fleets appeared without warning and struck with terrible precision. Shipyards were destroyed. Military bases were captured. Supply lines were cut, but the humans did not attack civilian targets. They did not bomb cities. They did not kill unarmed aliens. Every strike was aimed at military forces only. Admiral Chen Wei had been very clear about this. We are not the hegemony, he told his commanders. We do not murder innocent people. We do not burn worlds. We fight soldiers, not farmers. We destroy weapons, not homes. Some of his soldiers had argued. They remembered New Helsinki. They wanted the aliens to feel the same pain that humanity had felt. They wanted revenge. Chen Wei understood their anger. He felt it too. But he refused to let humanity become the monsters they were fighting. If we burn their cities, we become them, he said. And I would rather die than become like the creatures who killed our children. The hegemony was not prepared for this kind of war. For 12,000 years, they have fought enemies who were weaker and less advanced. They had never faced an opponent who could match their technology. They had certainly never faced an opponent who could beat it. War Admiral Torvex received reports from the front lines with growing horror. 3 shipyards destroyed. 17 military stations captured. 142 warships lost. And the humans had only been fighting for 3 days. This is impossible, he said, staring at the numbers. How did they build these weapons? How did they train these soldiers? Where did they learn to fight like this? His intelligence officers had no answers. Everything they thought they knew about humanity had been wrong. Torvex gathered what remained of his personal fleet and headed toward the front lines. He was the greatest warrior the hegemony had ever produced. He would stop the humans himself. He would show them that their little victories meant nothing. His fleet met the human forces near the Kelvin Nebula. 100 hegemony warships against 50 human vessels. The odds were in Torvex's favor. He smiled as his ships moved into attack formation. The smile did not last long. Admiral Chen Wei commanded the human fleet personally. He had studied Torvex's tactics for years. He knew every move the alien would make before he made it. The battle was brutal but short. Human pulse cannons shattered hegemony shields. Human fighters swarmed around the larger alien ships, finding weak points and exploiting them. Human soldiers in armored suits boarded enemy vessels and fought their way through the corridors. Torvex watched in disbelief as his fleet was torn apart around him. His flagship, the Pride of Velner, was the last ship still fighting. Its shields were failing. Its weapons were nearly destroyed. Fires burned through its corridors. "Surrender," a human voice said over the communication channel. "Your fleet is defeated. Your soldiers are dead. You have lost." Torvex grabbed his ceremonial blade. "I will never surrender to animals," he hissed. "I will die fighting like a true Velnorian warrior." "No," the human voice said. "You will not die. Dying is too easy for you. You will live. You will answer for New Helsinki." The flagship's doors exploded inward. Human soldiers poured through the smoke, their armor covered with the names of the dead. They moved with speed and skill that shocked even Torvex. He fought hard, He killed 3 humans before they took him down. But in the end, he was on his knees, surrounded by the people he had called insects. A woman walked through the crowd of soldiers. She was small by human standards, with dark skin and cold eyes. Her armor bore the name of New Helsinki's governor. Her family had died in the bombardment. "Do you know who I am?" she asked Torvex. The war admiral spat at her feet. "Another human animal. You all look the same to me." The woman nodded slowly. "My name is Captain Sarah Webb. Marcus Webb was my father. He begged you to spare our people. He begged you to show mercy. Do you remember what you told him?" Torvex said nothing. "You told him that we would burn. You told him that the hegemony does not believe in mercy." She leaned closer to his face. "You were right about one thing. We did burn. 2 million of us burned while you watched and smiled." She pulled out a small recording device. "Now you are going to send a message to your Galactic Council. You are going to tell them exactly what happened here. You are going to tell them that the hegemony's military power is broken. And you are going to tell them that humanity offers them a choice." Torvex looked at her with pure hatred. "And what choice is that?" "Peace or destruction," Captain Webb said simply. "They can accept humanity as equals and end this war. Or they can watch us tear down everything they have built over 12,000 years. The choice is theirs." She forced him to look into the camera. "But make sure they understand one thing. We offered friendship 3 years ago. They chose to laugh at us. They chose to burn our people. Now they will learn what that choice has cost them." The recording was sent to every corner of the galaxy. When it finished playing, the Galactic Council sat in stunned silence. The greatest military power in the known universe had been defeated by a species that had only been traveling among the stars for a century. The young diplomat. Curacao watched the faces of the council members. She saw their fear. She saw their confusion. But most of all, she saw them finally understanding what she had known from the beginning. They had poked a sleeping giant dot, and now that giant was fully awake. The Galactic Council met in emergency session for the first time in 800 years. Fear hung in the Great Hall like a thick fog. The representatives of 100 species sat in silence, waiting to learn their fate. The hegemony's military power had been shattered. In just 7 days, humanity had destroyed what had taken 12,000 years to build. Shipyards that had produced warships for centuries were now floating debris. Military stations that had guarded entire sectors were captured or abandoned. The great war fleets that had terrorized the galaxy were reduced to scrap metal dot, and humanity had not lost a single inhabited world. The council members looked at each other with eyes full of dread. They had seen conquering armies before. They knew what happened when a powerful species defeated a weaker one. Slavery, destruction, endless suffering. Surely the humans would do the same. Surely they would take their revenge on everyone who had supported the hegemony. Surely they would become the new tyrants of the galaxy. When the human delegation arrived, every alien in the hall held their breath. Ambassador Chun Wei walked at the front of the group. He was the same admiral who had led the attack on the hegemony forces. Now he wore simple civilian clothes instead of military armor. His face was tired, but calm. Behind him walked representatives from every nation on Earth. Scientists, diplomats, teachers, artists. They were not soldiers. They were ordinary humans who had been chosen to speak for their species. The council speaker, an ancient Valinari named Therenvos, rose from his seat. His hands were shaking. "Ambassador Jen Wei," he said, his voice trembling. "The Galactic Council acknowledges the victory of humanity over the hegemony forces. We are prepared to discuss terms of surrender." Chun Wei raised his hand. "We did not come here to accept your surrender." Confusion rippled through the hall. Then why are you here?" Therenvos asked. What do you want from us? Chen Wei reached into his coat and pulled out a document. It was old and worn, the paper slightly yellow. He held it up for everyone to see. This is the same treaty that Secretary General Vasquez offered to the hegemony 4 years ago. Before New Helsinki. Before the war. Before any of this bloodshed. He placed the document on the central table. It has not changed. Not one word. We still want the same things we wanted at the beginning. Sovereignty over our own worlds. Equal standing with other species. Mutual respect between all peoples of the galaxy. The hall was completely silent. You could rule us all, Kirasol said suddenly. Every eye turned to the young diplomat. She had pushed her way to the front of the crowd. You have the power to do whatever you want. You could enslave us like the hegemony enslaved others. You could burn our worlds like they burned New Helsinki. Why don't you? Chen Wei looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed deeply. Because we remember, he said quietly. We remember what it feels like to be afraid. We remember what it feels like to be seen as lesser. We remember what it feels like to watch our children die while more powerful beings laugh. He walked toward Kirasol until he was standing right in front of her. The hegemony wanted to teach humanity a lesson at New Helsinki. They did. But it was not the lesson they intended. They taught us that power without compassion is meaningless. They taught us that cruelty breeds nothing but more cruelty. They taught us that the strong who abuse the weak are not truly strong at all. He turned back to face the council. Humanity could become like the hegemony. We could rule through fear and violence. We could take everything we wanted and crush anyone who opposed us. But if we did that, we would be spitting on the graves of everyone who died at New Helsinki. His voice grew stronger. Those 2 million people did not die so that we could become monsters. They died because they wanted to live in peace. They died because they believed that friendship was better than slavery. They died because they were good people in a universe that punished goodness. He pointed at the treaty on the table. So we will honor their memory by being what they wanted us to be. We will be friends to those who want friendship. We will trade fairly with those who trade fairly with us. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. His eyes hardened. But we will never forget. And we will never allow what happened to New Helsinki to happen again. To anyone. If any species tries to conquer or enslave another, they will answer to us. If any empire tries to build itself on the suffering of others, we will tear it down. He looked directly at Theron Voss. You have a choice, Council. You can sign this treaty and join humanity as equals. You can help us build a galaxy where no child has to burn because their parents refuse to become slaves. Or you can refuse, and we will go our separate ways. He paused. But if you ever threaten humanity again, if you ever try to harm our people, remember this moment. Remember that we offered you peace with open hands. Remember that we had every reason to hate you and chose forgiveness instead. Because if you force us to fight again, we will not be so gentle. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Kirasol stepped forward. She picked up a pen from the table and signed the treaty. She was the first alien to do so. I believe you, she said to Chen Wei. I have believed since the first time I saw your people. You are not like the hegemony. You are something new. One by one, other representatives came forward. Some signed quickly, eager to make peace with the terrifying humans. Others hesitated, unsure if they could trust a species that had just destroyed the most powerful military in the galaxy. But in the end, they all signed. When it was over, Chen Wei shook hands with Theron Voss. The ancient Velinari looked at him with a mixture of fear and wonder. You are very strange creatures, Theron Voss said. You could have had everything. Why settle for just equality? Chen Wei smiled sadly. Because we have seen what happens when a species wants everything. We have buried the results. Equality is enough for us. It is more than enough. He looked around the great hall at the representatives of 100 species who were now looking at humanity with new eyes. "We do not want your fear," he said. "We want your friendship. We want to build something together that is better than anything that came before. We want to prove that the universe does not have to be cruel and dark." He touched the treaty with one finger. "My grandfather died at New Helsinki. His last words were a prayer for peace. For years, I hated the hegemony for taking him from me. I wanted them to suffer like we had suffered." He shook his head. "But hate is exhausting. Revenge is hollow. My grandfather deserves better than a universe filled with more violence and more death. So I choose to honor him by building instead of destroying, by forgiving instead of hating, by extending my hand instead of my fist." He stepped back from the table. "That is what humanity offers. That is who we are. Not saints or angels, but people who have known too much pain and decided to stop passing it on." He looked at Kirasol, who was watching him with tears in her eyes. "We will make mistakes. We will sometimes fail, but we will always try to be better. And we will always remember the children who burned so that we could stand here today." The great hall erupted in applause. It started slowly at first, just a few aliens clapping their hands or tentacles together. But it grew until the entire chamber was filled with sound. For the first time in 12,000 years, the galaxy had Hope Dot and Somewhere in the Stars. In the empty place where New Helsinki used to be, the spirits of 2 million people finally found rest. Their deaths had not been meaningless. Their sacrifice had changed everything, and humanity would spend the rest of its existence making sure that what happened to them would never happen to anyone else.